Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another session of Women's Wednesdays Guyana. Today we are here with Keen Chase and Hassani Tini from Childwing Guyana, and we'll be talking all about sexual assault because this is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And they've been actually doing quite a few sensitization projects aimed at raising awareness during this month. So thank you guys for coming and thank you for all the work you've been doing so far. And yeah, today we'll just have a conversation about the sexual assault and what we can do to help mitigate some of the effects. All right. So over to you guys. I know you've been doing a lot of work on like sexual assault, and a lot of people don't really understand like the kind of specific differences that might constitute sexual assault, sexual abuse. So you just want to guide me a bit through the differences.
Yeah, okay, no problem. Would you like to start first, please?
Okay, a simple definition of sexual assault is unwanted sexual contact. So if I have sexual contact with someone and no consent was given, that in a sense is sexual assault. Sexual assault also occurs when I touch someone without consent in a sexual manner, or I cause that someone else to touch me in a sexual manner, or I can cause a third person, or I can cause someone else to touch a third person. So those those are components of sexual assault, but it's mainly a physical contact.
I think just to build on that, lots of times in the Guyanese society, we confuse the assault and the abuse a lot. What we need to know, sexual assault is a form of sexual abuse.
Okay.
It is not any less serious, it's not any less in the law books as it relates to the sexual offense law. We do have an aspect of it that dedicates to sexual assault. And the fact that this month is Awareness Month, it just kind of brings to the reality that we really need to make a lot of people aware of what is going on and make them aware of the fact that this is something that is happening in our society, and it can happen from as young as school-age children. So we have to understand, many times you read in the papers that someone has assaulted another person. So whenever we talk about assault, there's some amount of touch. So sexual assault is basically the sexual parts of your body has been touched, or like Hassan said, you force someone to touch it, or you force someone to touch another sexual body part. So it's important for us to understand that. And I just like to throw in the mouth. Many times as parents, as educators, we kind of negate the fact that the mouth is an important sexual organ. And when we're talking to children, we have to let them know that nobody should be asking you to put anything in their mouths, and nobody should be asking to kiss you on the mouth and these sorts of things. So it's important for us to, kind of just bring an awareness to these small things that we often neglect.
And I just want to say, I think sexual assault is very prevalent in our society, even in our schools. And one of the reasons that is the case is because the conversations is not happening between parent and child. The good touch and the bad touch conversation. Because if you go to our schools, you'll see boys especially grabbing at the girls in unwanted ways, and the girls, because they're not having the conversations, they don't know that this shouldn't be happening to me. A guy should not be touching me like this. So the lack of conversation, I think it's contributing to the prevalence of it, and in fact, it's even normalized.
Yeah, I think that's a really big problem we have as a Guyanese society, where we just don't talk about these issues, particularly with our children. So they go out into the world and they don't know what is right, what is wrong, and so people can easily just take advantage of their ignorance. So it's very, very important that we have these conversations, because we see almost daily, we see reports of sexual abuse, sexual assault, and then people ask the questions of why. That is part of the reason we're not having the conversations, we're not talking to our children. So we definitely need to do a lot more better when it comes to that.
And the public transportation, a lot of our children, they travel on the public transportation, they're exposed to certain music content. The content of certain music normalizes sort of behavior that, somebody should touch you and you're desirable, or you're this big thing if somebody wants to touch you. So you allow people to touch you. So the behavior, the musical content that our children are being exposed to, it's normalizing this sort of behavior.
Not only that, we need to understand also that public transportation is comes with its own advantages and disadvantages, and we need to understand when we're allowing our children to take the bus to school, you're late to school and this bus is already full, and the driver or conductor say, "Oh, you're small, sit on this person's lap."
Yeah, I've seen that.
And
It's
there's a
ridiculous.
particular region, I'm not going to mention the region for my own safety, but there's a particular region that there's a whole culture where 4, 5, 6 children in the back seat of a car is a normal everyday occurrence. And in one extreme case, we were even given this information that the teacher was in the front seat and the children were just on top of each other in the back. And one of the things that we kind of also neglect to talk about, when we talk about sexual assault, it doesn't necessarily even have to be naked. So me sitting on you in my school uniform, fully clothed, you can still, there's still sexual assault that can happen there. So it's important. I mean, I got into a car last week going to Burmese, and the mother literally looked around and said, "Oh, this is your cousin, something from far away, you know, this country life. You can sit on his lap." And we're going, no, you shouldn't encourage this, because, you know, when you start to say, "Oh, cousin can do it," it almost in the country life, and I'm not knocking anybody from the country because it happens in Georgetown and the rural, urban areas also. But we have to understand that we usually call everybody cousin and uncle and auntie in Guyana. And I'm very against that. For me, unless you're by blood, please don't call it. This is Mr. Teeny. This is Lisa Cola. You're not her aunt. You're not her uncle.
I am so guilty of it. Well, I don't really do it now, but you know, you're growing up and you're just expected to do it. So you call everybody auntie
So
and
we have
uncle.
to understand that when we do these sorts of things, it's almost as if you're building that level of trust, because uncles and aunts are supposed to take care of you. Cousins are not supposed to harm you. But you know, the reality is everybody's harming everybody these days, and you have to really speak about to your children about the fact that it can happen to anybody at any time, any place. So it's important for us to try to keep these things at the back of our minds, and when we're having conversations with our children, to really cover all the areas, not say, "Oh, this part will never happen."
Yeah, that brings me to another popular myth there is concerning sexual assault, where persons think that it only happens, strangers are the perpetrators, when in reality it's usually people they know, the family members, the friends, the same cousins, and all these different persons. It's not some stranger in an alleyway looking to jump out at you.
In the dark,
Yeah.
I mean, they do have cases like that, but we have to understand with sexual assault and any sort of sexual abuse, it's always where there's some level of trust in it. So you build this level of trust where I can go to you, I can sit on your lap. I wouldn't feel any sort of way immediately if you do touch me in a sexualized way, because, like, yeah, I know you, but I don't know you. I know you and I like you, but I'm not sure. So especially for children, it leaves that level of confusion. And then, you know, in Guyana, we really treat children lesser than. So they're not allowed to share their opinions. They're not allowed to talk. They're not really allowed. They should be seen and not heard. So how can I go and tell mommy that her brother or her sister, because we have to be sure, and we have to let it be known out there that women do this also. To other girls, to women and men. So we have to understand that there's no sort of closure in terms of gender when it comes to sexual assault. It's really can happen to anybody.
And a key issue in sexual assault is the issue of power. There are a lot of times where the perpetrator is somebody in a position of authority, in a position of trust, and they take advantage of that. The child, if it's a case where it's an adult and a child, and the adult is in a position of trust or in a position of power, you know, the child is not fully developed mentally and socially and emotionally, so they take advantage of that and try to manipulate the child to and use their power and trust over the child to have their way with the child. But the unfortunate truth is that this thing also happens on the level of children with children, peer to peer. You, as I mentioned before, you go into the schools, you see maybe the fifth form boys targeting the first form girls. So it can even happen with children. And there's one case that we know of where there are many cases like this where an adult may have abused a child, and we know that when a child has been abused, what do? They act out. So an adult may have done something for a child, and then there are cases where the child would go and act out on other children. So that's why we need our children to know that nobody should touch you, and if they do, tell mommy or daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you brought up the point about the children thing, particularly like how fifth formers can target first formers, because that's not something that I actively thought about, right? But it's something that's so very common, and it just kind of goes to show how kind of normalized these behaviors have become. We don't even really think about the significance of it.
Even one of the things that has been slowly coming to our attention is nursery level, and we've been getting way too many, in my opinion, reports of nursery children touching each other. I had a case where it was a preppy girl who was the leader of this gang of, I don't want to say, but she was kind of recruiting other girls to try out positions and these sorts of things during break time, during lunchtime. And she would target the nursery level children to do this, or the other preppy girls who were a little bit more shy and reserved. So it's very important. I mean, we always hear this question, when should we start talking to our children about sexual abuse and sex and good? My thing is that as soon as they can start understanding mommy and daddy, and yes, good touch, bad touch, we start from that level. It's important for us to know their body belongs to them. If it's one thing that we own that nobody can take away, is our body. And you let the child understand that this is your property. Would you want somebody to harm it? Would you want somebody to hurt it? This is the thing that you have to take care of, and mommy and daddy are there to help to, or whoever's the caregiver, I should say, to help to make sure that it's kept safe.
And parents need to be careful with what they do in front of the children.
Yes.
I know of one case where a little girl, this is nursery school level, touched a boy in a certain way and made him and cried. So when they found out what happened, what they realized was that the girl was seeing things at home. So what she saw at home, she went and acted out on the little boy. So it's not a case where this girl was actually sexually assaulted or abused, but she was just exposed to certain activities, and she acted out what she saw. So parents need to be careful what they do in front of the children.
Yeah, because children, they're basically like sponges. They see things, they observe that, and then they kind of repeat that same action. And they don't have any sort of malice or ill intent. They really are just doing what they've seen, right? So it's very important to monitor your behavior around your children. Ensure that you're appropriate around them, right? And you guys also mentioned a point I want to just backtrack a bit on the case of like sexual grooming. Now this is a conversation that has really only recently begun in Guyana, and it's interesting because it's been such a pervasive problem. I remember I was going to school, and I went to several different high schools, and in almost all of these high schools, you had teachers who were in relationships with their students. And we would have felt kind of turned off by this, but it's being normalized, it's being accepted by the adults. So that was just a normal part of the life. And then you have the family members who would sexually groom the children. And of course, children don't understand what is happening. They do not understand what is happening. So this, of course, continues. And so we really need to be careful about when it comes to who has access to our children, not because they might be family or they might be close friends, means that they should necessarily have some sort of large encounter with your child.
But sexual grooming, it's you have some very clever perpetrators out there who are able to groom children. Sometimes they're even able to groom adults in such a way that they're not even conscious until it reaches to the point of penetration. And what we need to understand, sexual grooming, it comes in levels. It could simply start with me giving you money to go to the shop, and then say, keep the money. And just like maybe a little hold hand. And then it could go to, then you realize, well, this person is nice, and especially for a child, you can come watch TV in my house. And the thing is that what we have to understand, I always say for younger children, food is something that you can get a lot from a child if they don't have food, and if they're not getting love at home. That's it. And for teenagers, money and food, because you have money as a teenager, you buy your clothes, you go your places, you get whatever. So it's important for us to understand what these children are lacking and where they're getting it from. So, sexual grooming, I can remember one of the cases when I was a school counselor. The guard at the school was so good because he was working in the community, and he was really, lending his bicycle to the children. If he has an extra snack, he giving it to them, until it reached to the point where these children were able to go home by him and watch television. Because, well, if he was the guard of the school, it wasn't anything big. He didn't do anything for so many encounters. And to the point where he was able to touch. And when he touched the child, then they weren't even sure that anything wrong was happening. Because, well, this is the guard, this is all right, he's giving us money, he's a nice man, everybody in the school likes him, all the parents speak to him when they come to collect. And I must say props to the Ministry of Education, who has included the TEL scheme in their HFLE curriculum. So more talk of sexual abuse and awareness is happening in schools. This child was able to go tell her teacher what was happening, and the teacher was able to recognize right away before it got even worse, because sexual assault is bad in itself, but we know that it can reach to penetration and rape and all of that. So it's important for us to understand that grooming can take years. It's not like I see you today and tomorrow. Some people are so good. We've had perpetrators who have said they were grooming a child for 12 months and getting their way while having one in the background that they were working on for 6 months. So it's not just one person, but you have like a series of persons at different levels that you're building up to do what you need to do.
Yeah, because the thing with sexual grooming, we know the child is sexually groomed, but the family can be groomed in the sense that if I am the teacher, I'm just calling a profession, I'm the teacher, and I want to have my way with this child, I win the parents' trust.
Extra lessons.
Right? Extra lessons.
Free.
And I engage them to give them the impression that I am a trustworthy person. So now, when I do that, if the child goes to you, you will have your doubts because you're like, this is Star. Star has been good to us. Star has been very cooperative. So, sexual, in terms of grooming, it's not the child that is groomed. It's also at times the parents who are groomed as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting point to note, and it's not something that I've thought about before too. And I'm really glad that you guys bring it up, because as you bring it up, you kind of recognize all these sort of things that have been happening in the background and you've not been paying attention to. Because I've seen this happen with persons where an adult might know their daughter is involved with an older man or something, but the older man might provide money, might provide something. So the family is accepting of that sort of behavior, So there's all these different levels to it.
Yes.
We've actually had cases of parents taking their children to bars as soon as the age of maybe 10, 11, taking them to hang out, encouraging them with alcohol as much as possible. So by the time they reach a certain age, they're able to, it's now immune to them. So then, and then slowly we've had many cases, unfortunately, of parents who would have groomed their children to the point of being prostitutes. So bringing money for the home. So it's really a lot we have to tackle out there. It's thankfully we have an entire month, which is still not enough. But I think it is important for us to not just use April as this month to have this conversation going. And I really like the fact that you have such forums and, you're doing such good work. But we really need to keep this thing going, because sometimes we become so complacent and say, it's not my child, I've done enough, they know about private parts and don't touch, bad touch. I know they're at school from this hour to that hour. And we kind of fall into this sense of complacency, and we have to be very careful with that.
Yeah, so be very careful. Talk to your children about all these different issues. I think that's a point we really should kind of harp on. The talking to your children, that's really very important. And as we're on the topic of sexual assault, Now, Asani, you mentioned before that sexual assault is anything that happens without consent. So I want us to just move on to the topic of consent for a bit,
Yeah.
because remarkably, not a lot of people seem to understand consent,
Yes.
despite all the different attempts of having the conversation, right? So let's just try to go through this a bit.
Well, consent is simply a clear yes.
Clear.
A clear
Clear.
yes. It's unfortunate. A lot of young persons, and we did a recent sensitization session where persons believe that if if you take somebody to a bar and the person is intoxicated and they don't say no,
No.
that gives you the right. But in order for you to give consent, you have to be in a position
Yes.
where you are aware of what is going on. You have to be conscious. You cannot be intoxicated. You have to be of age. And then there are even persons who may want to take advantage of somebody with a disability.
Yes.
And somebody with an intellectual disability cannot give consent.
Exactly.
So it has to be a clear yes. And some folks would want to say that even if the person would have enjoyed it, the sexual contact or the sexual activity, but if there was, let's say, ejaculation or anything of that nature, that doesn't mean that consent was given. There has to be clear yes.
Yes. And I'm very glad that you talked about the fact that, sometimes people say, but she had an orgasm, so I don't understand how she's saying that, she didn't want it after. We have to understand the way the body is designed. We have sexual zones, the body is designed, we are sexual beings, so the way the body is designed is if you do sexual touches, there is a possibility of it happening. So it is not something for you to say, oh, the woman had an orgasm, so obviously, she enjoyed it and she liked it. So it's important for us to really understand consent has to be a conscious yes, and not saying no does not mean yes. I think we have to really make sure that people know that. And one of the things that for me that I'd like to mention on consent is that women sometimes believe that, okay, so we went to a bar, we got touchy-feely, we were in the taxi on the way home, I can't change my mind. Oh gosh, we're already on the way home. I already don't want to do this, but I can't change my mind. You can definitely change your mind. This again belongs to you if you decide that, I don't want to go. Even if you reach the point of the bedroom, you decide, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, this is your choice, you're not giving consent to it. And I think many times we, as women, sometimes we put ourselves in that position where it's like, I feel so bad and I don't want to do this. And we automatically take on that responsibility of not making the other person feel as though they've wasted their time or pushing. So, and we have to run away from that. We have to really have these conversations where we understand that we are strong persons. We have that right to say no, and we have that right to say yes at any time. And I know many men or even women listening would say, but you're leading them on these sorts of things. We have to understand you don't know what is going on with that person. You don't know why they have decided to change their mind. But again, we don't really have to know that. The fact is, at this point, I've decided I don't want to do it, and that's it. And if you find somebody who is not respectful of that, this is something that you really have to address and in my opinion, run far away from.
I think, just to add, I think a lot of our young men don't understand what consent really is in its truest form. In fact, some might think that if the woman or if the person did not put up a physical resistance, that they're consenting, and that is not the case. Because somebody can feel threatened or somebody may be coerced, so they may not put up a physical fight. I could remember one case in a school, and of course, no name, no warrant. Some young men, I think they got some ecstasy, and they gave it to a young lady. She was unaware. She wasn't aware of what was going on, but she took it unwittingly. And when she was in her state, the high state, then she was in the washroom, and some guys, they were about to rape her. But then the cleaner came in and she saw what was going on. So again, here these young men are thinking, okay, she can't say no because she's in this intoxicated state. So she can't say no. So they're thinking that that is consent. So we really have to have conversations with our young men about what consent really is and the seriousness of it.
And also, I think even with our children from as young as possible, when we talk about consent, we don't necessarily have to just talk about sexual consent. But if you give your child something or they say they want something and they don't want it, usually as parents, you ask for it, you got to eat it. You know, don't waste my time, don't waste money. And we need to understand that these small things we're training our children how to react to things later in life. So I don't have that right to change my mind, even if I decided that I want this pack of biscuit, but I don't want it anymore. You waste my money. She was upset. So, you know, we grew up thinking that, oh gosh, we can't get them upset. We can't state how we feel about things. And me personally, I think it's important for us to really encourage conversation with children about feelings. It is really something we don't do in Guyana. So you're never able to really share how you feel about something later in life. How I feel about the fact that, you know, you want us to go home tonight, but I'm just tired and I don't. It's not that anything else, but I don't want to say that to you because I don't want to upset you. So feelings, it's important for us to really encourage our children to state how they feel about wearing something, going someplace. Many times we encourage our children and push them and force them into situations. You got to go by your auntie house. Mommy, you don't want to go. You got to because, you know, all right, if my mother say I got to, then I got to. Instead of you finding out from this child what is really behind this, what is the feeling behind this the not wanting to go to your aunt's house. And maybe you might be surprised. When I go there, she beats me. When I go there, we don't get food. When I don't there, I just don't like it. You know, and if I don't like it, then I don't like it. It's not that I'm trying to say that we have to always give children their way, which I know many people watching will say, because we have this thing again where we talk about spoiling children, and we have been taught that we love children, so we are overly loving to them, not spoiling them. We don't eat spoiled food, right? So, you know, it's just for us to understand that we're allowing the children to share their thoughts and opinions. They have rights, they have voices. Children are very smart, and sometimes we as adults forget that.
Yeah, and talking to your children about these things, ensuring they know what consent is, what it isn't, and what all that constitutes is so important. And yet, children are very, very smart. They're able to pick out what they might be comfortable with.
Yes.
So it's important that we listen to them. If they say they don't want to do something, then try to understand why they don't want to do it instead of just forcing them.
Yeah.
And just to bring up a point, like I usually try to talk to my daughter or age appropriate stuff, but she just surprises me sometimes with the things she says and that she actually listens to sometimes. So we were just talking the other day, and then she wanted to wear a dress, and then I was like, man, don't wear that. Wear something else. And she was like, Mommy, you told me that this is my body. I was like, okay, fine, ma'am. Just wear your dress, right?
Yes.
So those are the sort of things. If they realize that they have a say in their lives and and what they are willing to do, then they'll be much more open to share their experiences with you. And that's important.
One of my colleagues in the Child Advocacy Center would have said that children are little people. So they have their own thoughts, they have their own feelings, even their own instinct about what is right and what is wrong. And sometimes the way we treat children, we take away that people status from them. We make them think that they're less than a person. When we refuse to give them their rights or respect their say and their views. So we need to really be careful with the way in which we relate to children, because it all comes back to the issue of power.
Yeah.
If you treat your child for them to feel as though I'm powerless, I don't have a say, then when that child progresses in life in terms of they get more mature, they will have normalized that concept. And when other persons come to take advantage of them, sexual assault and otherwise, they allow it. Because we sometimes wonder, why is it that somebody may stay in a situation where there's domestic abuse? Well, how was that person nurtured? Was that person's self-worth nurtured in the home, or did they crush the person's spirit?
Yeah.
So, it's all about the issue of power, and we have to let our children know that you are strong and you are powerful.
Yeah. I think also in Guyana we like to mix up the words aggressive and assertive. And we need to raise children, both boys and girls, to be assertive enough to stand up to say, this is not what I believe in, this is not what I want, this is not what I'm for. Because many times, we encourage children to give in to, because society is saying, or, you really want to be friends with this person, so I'm going to go do this. And it's important for us to really teach them that standing up for what you believe in a respectful manner, of course, does not make you a rude child, does not make you a bad child. It makes you an assertive person who knows what they want and wouldn't stand for any sort of trash.
Good. Yes, I really particularly like the importance you put on being assertive, because I don't feel like that's something that a lot of people understand. They can always see it as being rude, and that's something, or being stuck up or something. Yes. So it's very important to know that you have a right to be assertive and saying yes and saying no, as long as you're comfortable with something. That is really all that matters, right? Okay. So guys, it was really great having you today. I learned so much. This is a really fruitful discussion. I'm really glad that you guys came and are doing all the awareness campaigns that you've been doing. Now, I know the work you do at Childlink, that it's so much, but just for those that are tuning in, I might not have an idea. We just want to give them an idea of what you've been doing, what you have planned, and stuff like that.
I don't know if you can tell them everything, but basically, Childlink is an organization that is non-governmental. We really encourage self-worth, and we really encourage that of the protection of violence and abuse towards children and families. One of the things I just like to encourage persons who are listening, if you feel as though sexual assault is something that has happened to you or somebody you know, and you just want somebody to talk to, a professional, we have that. We run sites that are dedicated to sexual abuse victims. So it's important for you to contact us. It's free of cost. Unfortunately, we don't have many males on staff, but we do try our best to see how we can make a proper referral so that everybody is catered for. But we do a lot of counseling. Parenting work is very big on our agenda, and advocacy work, and we do it through communities and schools. So feel free to contact us if you have an interest in getting any sort of information like this, or if you'd like us to just be a part of anything that you have in terms of empowering women, girls, men, boys, everybody in between. We are all about empowering and making sure that child protection is at the top of it is at the top of the people's agenda, and that of protection and abuse for children especially.
And just one of the most important things about Childlink is that we are big on collaboration. Yes. We believe that child protection is everybody's business. Yes. So we are open to engage all stakeholders at whatever level. So that is something that we promote, and we reach out to each and every organization who have a vested interest in protecting children. We want to work with you, even at the community level. We want to work with you. Faith-based organization, civil society, or whatever form of government, or whatever sphere you may find yourself in, as long as you are a stakeholder, as long as you have a vested interest in children's welfare, we will work with you.
Great. I'm so glad that you guys put so much emphasis on collaboration, right? Yes. Because that really is the only way you can get the amount of work done that you need to do. And a lot of times you just kind of operate individually, and that kind of stifles a lot of the work you can get done. So I'm really glad of everything you guys have been doing, and thanks again for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
And thanks for everyone tuned in right now. We will see you again next month. Bye.